The Hive Mind was a massive necromorph variant created by Marker 3A on Aegis 7. It was unwittingly created by the Sovereign Colonies as a result of military testing of the experimental Marker 3A on Aegis 7 in the 2290s, and acted as a nexus between the Marker and the rest of the necromorphs. The Marker maintained its connection to the Hive Mind through a signal amplifying pedestal, which it used to relay orders to the massive creature. The SCAF eventually aborted any further experimentation with the Marker, sealing off Aegis 7 and abandoning the artifact somewhere above the Hive Mind's resting place beneath the surface, where it remained for the next 200 years. The Hive Mind resembled an enormous worm with tentacles along its length. Its full size was never truly shown, as an unknown portion of the creature was hidden inside the crater, but it appeared to have a defined head and thorax. It is unknown how many bodies were used to create the Hive Mind. The creature had a very fleshy appearance on its lower thorax, almost resembling human skin with muscle tissue covering certain areas, and its tentacles appeared to grow from well below this thorax area. The head's most prominent feature was a massive circular mouth consisting of 2 sets of jaws, each with their own rows of teeth. The Hive Mind was able to spit acidic pods from its central mouth. Around the mouth there were 5 quote-unquote eyes made from yellow explosive fluid. The thorax featured a frontal cavity which sheltered 5 more yellow sacs that served as the necromorph's vital organs, with a rib cage serving as protection for them. The back of the creature featured several branched antenna-like appendages. The purpose of these was unknown, but it is possible that they served as antennas, helping in broadcasting the Marker signal to other beings, as well as forwarding commands to the other necromorphs. The Hive Mind acted as an organic command center for the Aegis 7 necromorph outbreak, as Marker 3A referred to it as a nexus between itself and the necromorphs. The connection between the Hive Mind and the Marker was strengthened by the Marker's pedestal, which amplified its signal and allowed it to relay orders to the creature. When the Marker was removed from the pedestal, the connection was severed and the Marker could no longer coordinate with the Hive Mind. A nexus organism is the name given to necromorphs that are able to broadcast the signal from the Markers and Brethren Moons to the smaller necromorph variants. Another of this type was the nexus seen on Tau Volantis, and which served the same purpose of the Aegis 7 version, except instead of being made from the combined biomass of thousands of humans, the nexus was made from a single gigantic Tau Volantian, as the alien species had an indeterminate growth, meaning they would continue to grow throughout their entire lifespan without stopping. The boss from the mobile game is thought to be an immature Hive Mind, and both the Ubermorph and some slashers which have the same 5-eye layout are speculated to also be some sort of progenitors of the Hive Mind type. Perhaps as a new Hive Mind begins to form, one of these would act as the dominant necromorph to which others would then assimilate into. The Hive Mind will use its tentacles to slam down onto its enemies, and will also use them to grab with so it can devour them. It can also spit out explosive sacs and smaller necromorph forms. 200 years after the Sovereign Colonies abandoned Aegis 7, the Concordance Extraction Corporation mining company discovered the planet and found out that it was a gold mine of resources. Regardless of the restrictions for travelling to the Aegis system due to the classified information regarding the first Aegis 7 incident, the CEC decided to construct an illegal mining colony on the planet to begin harvesting it. Sometime before the arrival of the USG Ishimura, a small team of miners found the Marker. Immediately upon its discovery, it began the first phase of the second necromorph outbreak by slowly driving the members of the mining colony insane. As the Ishimura arrived at the planet, the colony began the extraction of a large portion of the planet. As the piece of the planet was moved away, the Hive Mind was exposed to the surface. Not too long after the planet crack, the Marker's influence finally reached its final potency, turning the dead into necromorphs to set loose upon the colony. As all hell broke loose, the Hive Mind reawoke from its slumber with new pawns to command and began destroying anything that came close to its nest or tried to escape. As the colony was overrun, the Ishimura followed as both the marker and the infection were brought on board the vessel. In a matter of hours, both the colony and ship were lost. Dr. Kyne recovered footage of the hive mind during the outbreak, and the crazed Dr. Mercer came to learn of its existence and turned to worshipping it as a divine entity. The hive mind appeared to be the controlling intelligence of the necromorphs in the Aegis 7 system. With the absence of Marker 3A's creators preventing convergence from beginning, the marker instead sought to imprint its codes in any suitable individual it could find. It eventually targeted Dr. Kyne, who had begun sabotaging the Ishimura systems in an attempt to crash it into the planet. Before he could complete this plan, the marker intervened with a hallucination of the Doctor's deceased wife, Amelia. At this point, Kyne entered a delusional state and was manipulated by Amelia into returning the marker to its pedestal as it promised to calm the hive mind. Unaware of the artifact's true intentions of merging with his mind, after the USG Kellion arrived at the Ishimura, the marker seemingly encouraged Kyne to request the assistance of one of the Kellion's crew, a CEC engineer named Isaac Clarke. Isaac decided to help Kyne with returning the marker, but Kendra Daniels, a member of the repair team, revealed herself to be an undercover agent tasked to contain the marker, and betrayed Isaac and killed Kyne before attempting to flee with the artifact. However, the marker's influence over Isaac made him pull Kendra's shuttle back to the Ishimura, forcing her to flee in an escape pod that landed somewhere on the planet. Isaac successfully regained both the shuttle and the marker and landed on the colony, making his way to the pedestal site where the marker had launched its first strikes that drove the colony insane. As Isaac returned the marker to its pedestal, it re-established its connection to the hive mind and ordered it to stand down while it released a massive pulse, imprinting its codes into Isaac and Elizabeth Cross's minds. However, this wave of energy also disabled the gravity tethers keeping the chunk of the planet in orbit in place. With the impending doom on the way, Isaac headed back to the shuttle but was stopped by Kendra, who once again stole the marker. This event caused the hive mind to become even more aggressive, attempting to slam the colony's structure down in an attempt to retrieve the marker. As Kendra and Isaac reached the shuttle pad, the hive mind ambushed them, killing Kendra and beginning the final fight with Isaac. Isaac defeated the hive mind and it slid back into the massive crater below. As Isaac escaped from the chaos, what was left of the necromorph was disintegrated when the chunk of the planet fell down. I remember the first time I saw the hive mind back when I first played the game, and I was in awe at just how big and threatening it looked, and it made for such a cool end boss for the game. I loved the fight too, and that part where it picks you up and you have to shoot the yellow weak spots, and then when Isaac manages to escape just in the nick of time before the piece of crust falls down. It's got to be one of the most awesome end boss fights out there. Make sure to let me know your thoughts about the hive mind and Dead Space in general, and if you want access to exclusive videos and other perks and want to support what I do directly, then you can become a channel member from as little as $1.99 a month. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.